My guest is Max Manga, teen and new adult librarian at the Kingston Frontenac Public Library. So glad you came in today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So tell me what your job is.
So I'm the Teen and New Adult Services Librarian. So I'm responsible for programming and outreach and community engagement for teenagers aged 13 to 18, and then also younger adults aged 18 to 30. Oh,
I was wondering what they consider new adult at that point, but okay, up to age 30. Okay. So what is different about what you do over the regular library services? What does your program consist of?
Well, I do a lot of teen programming, so it's a lot of going to high schools, talking to teenagers, trying to get them interested in reading, interested in volunteering at the library.
Right.
So I do a lot of our volunteer services. But then I also coordinate a lot of the programs and manage the library's makerspace, our create space.
So it's more than books.
More than just books.
Okay, tell me about the create space. That sounds interesting.
It's a really cool space, and I'm glad we have it. It's at the Central Branch in downtown Kingston, and we've got a variety of like techie toys for people to come in and mess around with. So we have a 3D printer. We have a Cricut, which is a smart cutting machine, and we use that to make things like t-shirts, or you can decorate a tote bag. Lots of people come in and they'll use it to like make wedding decorations or things for birthday parties. We have a sewing machine, we have an embroidery machine, and we have a Windows computer that allows you to take things like VHSs or DVDs and transfer them digitally.
That is, you know, I'm just thinking how beneficial that is to understand that technology doesn't have to be just YouTube videos on your cell phone. There's things that are they're creative as well as being technology driven. Mm-hmm. That is fascinating. The library collection, is it in a special place in the library, or kind of intermingled with all the other books?
No, there's a specific room in the library.
Okay.
So when you make a booking to go in, completely free to use, you go into the space and you have about a 4-hour block of time where only you have access to this equipment.
Okay, that sounds really fun, right? And I've heard that we used to read a lot. That was my generation. Mm-hmm. You know, we grew up with books and we read, but we didn't have nearly the many distractions that I think kids today have. So is there a return to reading? Is there that solid books that you, maybe even a real book rather than one online? Is that increasing? Is it decreasing? Do you think that this sort of engagement by young people?
We're seeing we're still recovering in library usage from the pandemic, right. But we're seeing larger increases in the number of people accessing our ebooks. So either reading books on their phones or on their computers, or listening to audiobooks. So we're seeing more people read digitally. That's
the Libby system.
Yes.
Oh, I love the Libby system. That's all I use is the Libby system. It's fabulous. Yeah, yeah. What makes the difference between books that are for under 30 and the other books? Is there something what are some of the significant difference? I don't really understand that.
Well, of course, we have no problem with teenagers or younger people reading general adult fiction. There's nothing wrong with an adult going to the teen section and pulling out a graphic novel or young adult books. I think a lot of people like to revisit our young adult collections for nostalgia.
Oh,
but the thing that really separates what we classify as a teen book from an adult book is that teen books tend to focus on characters who are teenagers. So if you're reading a teen book, you want the characters to be the same age as the person reading them. So they're a little bit more relatable, because there's not much a 13-year-old is going to relate to like a 40-year-old.
Good point. I hadn't thought of that.
A lot of the themes and topics tend to be things that teenagers would be interested in. So either they're specifically set in high school and they're dealing with high school issues, or first love, or like high school friendships, high school relationships, that kind of stuff. So they should be focusing on issues that the teenagers find interesting. Like they're not, teenagers are probably aren't interested in reading books about, divorce or
Yeah, right.
being
yeah.
a career.
Right, they're not quite there yet. They will get there, but other than their parents being divorced, is right. I get that. Yeah, I would understand that. So, what kind of kid? These are. Have you got any that they were the last ones you would ever think you'd win over to coming to the library? Do you ever get that? Or are these the kids that their parents always read, and this was something they grew up with reading?
I think we get a good mix.
Okay.
Specifically at our Rideau Heights branch, which is at the Rideau Heights Community Center in the North End, we get a lot of teenagers or younger adults who are coming in from the community center, or they're just hanging out in the park, and they're coming in, and a lot of them don't really read. They're reluctant readers, or they're not super interested in reading, but they're coming into the library for library programs, or they're coming in to play board games with us and to interact with us. And eventually, by building positive relationships with those youth, we're able to get them to sign up for summer reading or to sign up for library cards to start reading more.
That is wonderful. Yeah, libraries used to be imposing. And you always think of them, you had to be very quiet when you went into the library. You almost tippy-toed because it was so dead silent, and not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, it's very, it's active, and there's energy, and it's very welcoming. There's lots of big comfy chairs to curl up and try out a book before you actually take it out. You can read and see if this is something you're going to enjoy. And I like libraries. I think they're just super places. I'm always surprised when I run into adults, and I'm talking, my generation, and you talk about books, and they don't read books at all. Never did. And I just kind of, my jaw drops a little bit. I'm surprised. I'm thinking, there's a whole world out there. You can lose yourself in a book so much easier than you can a movie. You have to keep your mind on what you're doing, or you miss the plot. And I love books. I really do. Yeah. So you went to library school.
Yes.
Where was that?
I went to Western for the Masters in
London.
Library Science program. Yeah.
Right. And this is what you specialized in, is exactly what you ended up doing.
Yes, I got the job at the library that I wanted to work at. So I went to Queens, and I volunteered under the person who was in my position when I was an undergrad, and that's what inspired me to go to library school. And then when I graduated, this position just happened to come up, so it was a perfect fit.
Absolutely. My goodness, that's great. That's great. Did you always want to do this? What got you interested in books? I mean, reading for pleasure, let's say.
I read a lot as a kid, and then when I got into high school, I stopped reading for fun. And it was only by chance starting to volunteer with the library, because I wanted to feel more connected with Kingston, that I got back into reading. And so it was really through volunteering at the library as a reluctant reader, as somebody who didn't read, that got me back interested in it. And I think it was about not reading what I thought I was supposed to be reading, but looking for a book that was personally interesting to me. And then from there it snowballs, and now I read all the time. Right.
You realize that it's a whole world out there, and I think people miss a lot not reading. But that's a great story to be able to recruit kids in high school. When you go into high school, to say, hey, I didn't read when I was in high school, and this is what I missed out on. So if somebody out there, say in their teens, early 20s, and they've really never read, what book would you say, here's a good one to start with?
I would, well, when we do reader's advisory for somebody who comes in and they just say, well, what's a great book? Something that I think a great book you might not like at all. So I really like reading books about athletes and sports. And so if the person I'm talking to is really into sports, I might be able to recommend like a new autobiography that came out. There's a really good hockey autobiography by Fred Sasakamoose that came out a few years ago. So if you're really into sports, I would recommend something like that.
Oh, of course,
if you're really into movies or superheroes, Marvel, we've got all sorts of great graphic novels that are
Right,
coming out.
of
So you could get
course.
somebody started on a graphic novel and then get them hooked into reading that way. So it really depends on what you're interested in. But the great thing about the library is that you can write into us and you can tell us your interests. You can tell us what sorts of things you like to read. What's the last great book you read, even if it was when you were a child. And we'll have somebody who reads the sorts of materials that you do reach back out to you and give you a list.
Wow, I had no idea. I've learned so much today. This is super. This is great. Thank you so much for coming in. And if you want to know more about the services of this particular part of the library, it's on the screen. Thank you so much for coming in today.